What's up? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It is Friday, our favorite day of the week here at the channel. This particular Friday is October 1st. And if you don't happen to have any plans for the weekend, why not go on a little journey or perhaps a quest? A quest, you ask? What type of quest? Well, The Quest with Yes. This is their 22nd album, follows up 2014's Heaven and Earth. And what is there left to say about these legendary progressive rockers? They basically are the godfathers of progressive rock. Extremely influential band in their 50 years of existence. It's pretty wild to think that they're still around, still touring, still making music. I think of Lynyrd Skynyrd when I think of these guys. Not that their music sounds the same in any way, but both bands, I think, incredible groups of musicians that have just been sort of a revolving door throughout the ages. And I would argue that both Lynyrd Skynyrd and Yes are they're rock and roll institutions. They're both bands that they've become bigger than the people that are in them. They're both bands that come to represent certain things about music. And Yes, in particular, represents this idea that rock and roll can be so much more, can incorporate so many more different elements, even things outside of what you would conventionally consider rock and roll. Timing structures, sequences, stepping outside of the traditional 3.5-minute pop style kind of song, basically breaking all the rules. That's what progressive rock, to me, represents. I feel like that's what it came to represent back in the late 60s when these guys were getting together and making music. And it's pretty wild. The Quest is their first album to feature none of the original members on the band. You know, and you talk about that idea of being in institutions. Most people look at Skynyrd and yeah, Ronnie Van Zant was the lead frontman. He was the guy. But so many other elements to that band, and there's so many other driving forces that have been just as big and just as bright. And you look at a band like Yes, and you could say that Steve Howe is probably that guy to this point. He has been on 21 of the 22 records. He wasn't on the first one. Chris Squire, bass player, longtime bass player up until his passing. You know, you could argue that maybe he was that guy in this band. But again, you have a big revolving door of very talented musicians that have just been a part of this amazing driving creative force for half a century. It's so wild. And it's just cool to see that this legacy continues on with this record. I'll admit, I'm not the biggest Yes fan. I'm not that familiar with, a lot of their catalog, frankly. I probably know most of the songs that, mainstream music has played, and then a few others that I've been showed by friends over the year. But I can definitely acknowledge where credit needs to be given, where it's due. And I don't know where music would be without Yes. So props to this band. Kudos to them for continuing to make music. And if you're a fan, I think you're definitely going to dig definitely the first half of this album. I think these first few songs on this particular record, if and when they tour again, are going to be great in a live set. This thing opens up with The Ice Bridge. There's 3 songs on the 8-track run list here that are built into 3 different parts. The Ice Bridge being one of them, but big opening intro track. It's got this big synth, these galloping drums that come in, and then just these great different sequences that are just so well put together. It's one of the things that I love about Yes. You get all sorts of different fun stuff thematically and lyrically, science, sci-fi, space, all that great stuff. And then The Ice Bridge leads into Dare to Know. And this particular song, and a lot of this record actually has a Jethro Tull influence. I couldn't help but feel that. And so Dare to Know sounds like Jethro Tull made a ska record. It's very interesting, but I dig the sound. It's light, it's breezy, it's got a little funk. It works. It's very nice. I definitely dig the energy. Leads into Minus the Man, which keeps that going. It's got a bit of a slower tempo, but it's still light and breezy. It's got this great flute element. Talk about Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull. Funky bass, just a really nice, crisp, clean guitar tones and great solos as well. And honestly, that's the one thing throughout this record. Lots of great guitar work from Steve Howe. And the production, it was left up to him. He did a marvelous job on this record. I mean, the runtime, a lot of these tracks, there's some stuff towards the back end where I feel like just the songs themselves cause this thing to linger a little bit. I just think that songs, especially the closer, A Living Island, just leaves a lot to be desired. It's not one of my favorite tracks that I've ever listened to in my life. But, the first half of this thing, Minus the Man, that third track we were talking about, Leave Well Alone, really loving that Jethro Tull influence in that track. And The Western Edge is another really rad track that I'm a big fan of. Future Memories, your 6th track, is got this nice dark acoustic feel to it. And yeah, honestly, really just music to my ears and A Living Island, the last 2 tracks, I felt led this thing to sort of fizzle out. And then there's 3 bonus tracks on this thing which seem honestly really out of place. Mystery Tour is pretty cool. It's a little homage to the Beatles, but they extend the runtime of this thing to over an hour. And I think that sadly, it drags a little bit in the end. But I'm looking forward to maybe buying a ticket to see Yes live and seeing the Ice Bridge and Minus the Man in concert, because I think those songs are going to fit in very nicely with all the other classic songs that you know and love from the band Yes. Sadly, I'm going to do a vinyl pass on the quest. I'm going to have to find a different journey, a different mission to go on this weekend. But if you choose to embark on this one, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you find this review helpful. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more album reviews throughout the week. We'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.